2020 was an interesting year for anime. It felt like a lot came out last year, but at the same time, nothing worth noting. Every anime that stuck out for the wrong reasons. Starting with the Ishizoku reviewers, aside from it genuinely being a great anime, it stuck out because of all the drama that surrounded it with Funimation, Mal, and everything else. So even though it was one of the best animes last year, it's probably only as big as it is because of the drama that surrounded it. Then everything with Uzaki happened. Even though the anime itself was average all around, again, it only stuck out because of the controversy with Uzaki's design. It seemed that the only notable anime in 2020 were notable because of some type of controversy that surrounded it, and this is no different for Rent-a-Girlfriend. Though the backlash was nowhere near as bad as the other two shows, a lot of people point out the show's concept and the main character specifically, and said that he and people like him are what's wrong with society, saying he's a virgin simp incel, or any other buzz terms, and lumping the show in with the other two animes as just problematic animes, which I really feel Rent-a-Girlfriend got the short end of the stick, especially because it was easily one of the best animes that came out last year, and honestly had a good story and amazing characters. So let's get into why Rent-a-Girlfriend is better than you think. Rent-a-Girlfriend follows Kazuya Kinoshita, a 21-year-old college student who just got broken up with by his ex-girlfriend, Mami. Mami, sorry, her name's just really fun to say. We follow Kazuya on his road to moving on from his past relationship and coming to terms that he is no longer with Mami, and then watching him fail at it multiple times. But it's not about him moving on from his past relationship, but also the wacky affairs that happens as he makes new ones. This is where we get introduced to the other main characters like Chizuru Ichino's Ruka Sadashina and Sumi Sakurasawa, as well as some other side characters like my main man, Kiba Yoshiaki and Shun Kuribayashi. After being broken up with Mami, he rents Chizuru as his rental girlfriend. The date goes well, but by the end he realizes that none of it was real, upsetting him and causing him to get mad at her, which she then retaliates when she switches from her rental girlfriend mode to her actual personality and verbally lets him have it. Which is when we get introduced to the question the show wants us to ask. When are people playing an act, and when are they being genuine? Is it worse to lie and tell somebody something they want to hear, or is it worse to be honest even if it makes you look bad? Continuing on, we are then introduced to a girl named Ruka, a girl with a heart condition that causes her to have an irregular heartbeat. So when Kazuya was able to make her heart race, she started to like him since he was the only one who could make her feel that way. Then finally we're introduced to Sumi, a quiet girl who wants to be a rental girlfriend to help her be more confident. Kazuya acts as her mentor on how rental girlfriends should act due to his extensive history knowledge of rental girlfriends. This is more or less a quick summary of what takes place throughout the first season, but there's a lot of ground to cover when it comes to everything that goes into these characters and moments, so let's actually start getting into it. To start off, let's talk about the strongest aspect of the series, the characters. What got the series the most flack is the same thing the series excels in the most, the characters and their development. I honestly think it's because of how well they're developed and how well they're fleshed out. It's part of the reason why people just hate some of the characters in particular. I'll talk more about this later, so for now let's just focus on the characters themselves. Starting with Ruka, she's probably the most depressing character in the show so far. If you think about the full context of her situation, yeah, she has the heart condition, which on its own is pretty sad, but think about it like this. You have Ruka, this girl who is so desperately trying to find someone that can make her heart race, find someone who can make her feel something she's never felt before. So she goes on date after date trying to find that one person, and the one time she finally finds someone that can make her heart beat faster than 80 beats per minute, something that the literal laws of physics in the guise of a roller coaster couldn't do, they don't even like her. But to go even further beyond just, oh, my crush doesn't like me back, she straight up doesn't even like the dude. Like, yeah, she does learn to eventually like him, but it seems more out of necessity at first. But just imagine that. Like, the one person who can make your heart beat, and it's the one person you can't stand. I know I talked about a situation like this in the Sophia video, but to reiterate, she doesn't really have a choice here. Either get with this one person you don't like and learn to like them, or continue searching for another someone who might not even exist. It's not like she chose Kazuya to be that one person, it just so happened to be him, and now she has to live with it. I'm sure given the choice, she would have chosen many other people, but she simply wasn't given that choice. And to only add more fuel to the fire, she then has to play second fiddle to someone who, in her eyes, has no emotional connection to the only person that can make her feel normal. Overall, Ruka not only has to live with a heart condition, but also deal with the fact that she has no say in the matter of who that special someone in her her life that can help her with her condition will be. And then after finally finding that person, not even being able to be with them. It makes it for one of the most depressing characters and character concepts in the show. Yeah, she can be a little over the top at times, but I mean, who wouldn't? Finally attaining something you thought was impossible, only for it to be dangling in front of your face without the ability to reach for it. I don't think the main character is as bad as people say he is, but let's pretend that he is for a moment, so we can fully dissect this aspect of Ruka's character and explain the flaws of how she's going about this whole heart condition, and then see how it can parallel with the real world. Ruka, for the sake of having someone who can make her heart beat normally, would rather enter a relationship with someone who everyone thinks is a piece of shit, and for the most part, didn't even have the best first interactions with them, like with the whole panties and the boob grabbing and stuff. Yet she would rather enter a relationship with this person for the sole reason that it makes her heart go a little faster, instead of a more normal and probably healthier relationship just because that one person can't make her heart beat normally. It's the real world equivalent of looking for a specific aspect in a partner and having that being the deciding factor. Think the whole no big titty tomboy GF, why live meme, but unironically, when you give yourself tunnel vision by looking for one certain quality like, oh, they need to be rich, or oh, they have to be into this one thing I like, you tend to lose focus on all the other aspects that are also important. Ruka is the exact embodiment of this idea. Luckily, Kazuya isn't a terrible person, but in any other circumstance, it could have easily gone really bad for her. Like, she was desperate enough to be rented by this dude thinking there might be a chance. I know he's silhouetted, but he's at least 30, like she's 17, so her character shows that you shouldn't let one thing dictate how you live your life or be the singular deciding factor in things. Because yeah, you know, she's not in the worst position, but she's in a tough spot because of what's going on with Kazuya and Chizuru. Moving on to Mami, easily best girl of the series. No emotionally manipulative GF, why live? What I find most interesting about her are the parallels she has with Chizuru, as they both do the same thing, but only Mami gets the hate for it. I'm not going to sit here and play dumb and act like I don't understand why she gets the most hate. I just want to point out the similarities in how both Mami and Chizuru act. As the audience, we get to see why Mami does some of the things she does, and with that added context, we're better able to understand she's just manipulating Kazuya. But that added context acts as a double-edged sword, because then it makes it harder for us to know when she's being genuine. Like for example, when she's in a room hugging her pillow upset over Kazuya. In the scene, it could be explained as her just being jealous that some random loser nobody she dated would be able to date someone better than her, and then two-time them by dating someone else who is also really attractive. But if it was just pure jealousy she felt, how come when she confronted Chizuru in the karaoke bar, why would she be saying that they should drop the couple's business for Kazuya's sake, saying that everyone at school is so convinced it would be hard for him to get a real girlfriend because of his rental one? Then again, you could say she's being manipulative by using for Kazuya's sake as a way to get what she wants. But that logic is also just as faulty, as what would stop him from just renting another girlfriend and doing the same thing? So could it be out of jealousy that now Chizuru is the one getting all of Kazuya's attention? It's hard to fully know. You could just write it off as she's being manipulative and nothing would change, but you're not giving it enough credit if you don't even ask why she's doing all this. Is it because of an ego, or is it because she has some lingering feelings for him? There's no real way of knowing, since there's no way to tell whenever she's putting on an act or when she's being genuine. The same problem the audience and Kazuya has with Chizuru. She has girlfriend mode for when she's being rented, and then there's her actual personality. It's hard to know when she's being genuine or just playing the girlfriend act. Ruka does point this out later, that the fact that she's still doing the girlfriend act despite Ruka being in the picture now shows that there's some underlying motive Chizuru has by continuing the girlfriend act with Kazuya. So what's the difference between Mami and Chizuru in this instance? They're both using the relationship they have with Kazuya as a means to get what they want. Chizuru uses the fact that Kazuya's grandma wouldn't understand, or that people might find out she's a rental girlfriend if her and Kazuya don't stay together, as a means to justify why her and Kazuya haven't dropped the act to Ruka. Whether she likes Kazuya or likes getting money from Kazuya, she has something to gain by keeping up the act. Mami uses the fact that Kazuya still hung up on her to do and say what she wants. Whether it's because she likes Kazuya or it's to protect her ego, she also has something to gain by putting in all that effort. In both cases, it's difficult to tell when either of them are putting up an act or when they're being genuine. Another point about Mami is how she demonstrates the possible downsides of hookups. As seen in the show, with Mami going from partner to partner, eventually the meaning and fun behind it began to fade for her. With the last shot we see of her, she's with some nameless, faceless guy just bored and uninterested. Then zooming in on the bracelet that helped bring whispering her and Kazuya into a kiss during episode 3, indicating the possible significance of the one relationship that was different and had actual meaning behind it. The idea that the relationship with Kazuya she had being the only meaningful one may be the reason why she was so upset with him possibly two-timing Chizuru, thinking that maybe she got played into believing that the one guy who promised to make her happy was just another player telling her what she wants to hear. With that, let's focus more on Chizuru. With everything I previously said about Chizuru, such as how it's hard to differentiate between her girlfriend mode and her normal personality, it presents both the audience and the main character with an interesting dilemma. How does she actually feel? On one hand, she may be willing to deal with all the problems Kazuya causes, such as introducing her to his friends and family because she's a rental girlfriend and it's her job. But on the other hand, she could also be willing to stand on that bridge with Mami and ask if she's ever really confronted her feelings for Kazuya truthfully and head-on out of actual care and love for the guy. In either situation, she achieves her goal of helping Kazuya by being the catalyst for his growth. But narratively, she also fulfills her purpose of showing the audience how relationships like that of a rental girlfriend can overall be good for someone, and change the minds of those who think it can only do more damage and lead to the development of parasocial relationships. When I rewatched the show with a couple of friends, they echoed the same initial thoughts many people online had about the concept of renting girlfriends. That renting girlfriends and faking relationships can lead to unhealthy obsessions with that one person. The fact that online people can already grow obsessive with a person just by watching them stream, imagine how much worse it could be if they were then thrown into a one-on-one pretend relationship with said person. The idea that nothing good can really come out of a relationship like that is exactly what Chizuru is trying to argue against, because even in the rent-a-girlfriend world, people share that same idea and others may judge or look down upon those who participate in it in any sense. That's part of the reason why Chizuru doesn't want people at her college or family to find out. It's because of this negative perspective people have on it. Throughout the show, it displays both sides of the arguments, with the positives and negatives that can come out of these parasocial-esque relationships. I think the best in-your-face example of the negatives that can come from it is the case of Kuribayashi. Kuri started renting Ruka and ended up growing a pretty close attachment to her, only for her to cut it off as she was done with the whole rental girlfriend business after finding Kazuya, which in turn caused him to go all sad Simpsons edits mode. Now, to be fair, you could allude to the way that Ruka cut it off as part of the reason for him reacting as badly as he did, but for simplicity, let's just say he reacted poorly because of how attached he was. From Kuri's view, it's not as if he didn't know nothing would come of it, he did. It's just he loves the idea of it so much and he so desperately wants it to be real, he confuses those feelings. And then after talking to Chizuru and realizing how important it is to find the one for him, to find the one who can give him that loving relationship in an authentic way, that's what's so great about rental girlfriends. It's shown time and time again how important love is when it comes to relationships, and rental girlfriends are able to provide a goal for the clients to work towards. Like Chizuru said, rental girlfriends are only there to act as a band-aid, but they can't straight up replace something that's missing. Her argument is proven by the main character Kazuya, as he shows the more positive sides of rental girlfriends. After interacting and spending time with Chizuru, he looks back at the relationship he had with Mami and realized how hollow it was for him, making passing statements like Mami would never go see his grandma, or she's nicer now than she ever was when they were dating. The time he had spent with Chizuru showed him what a proper relationship should be like. Yeah, with rental girlfriends you don't have to deal with all the responsibilities of an actual relationship, but it gives him something to work towards. Overall, Chizuru is able to provide a really strong argument for rental girlfriends, not by ignoring the downsides, but by showcasing the positives that can come from it and questioning what may be the causes to those possible downsides, and then asking if those causes can solely be attributed to the fault of rental girlfriends, as people are more willing to point blame at something when bad things happen rather than ask why said bad thing happened in the first place. With that said, let's take a look at how rental girlfriends can help the actual rental girlfriend. So, I was going to start this off by saying how Sumi has no chance of winning since she got introduced during episode 10, which is equivalent to chapter 41 in the manga, but then I realized that, spoilers for Naruto, Hinata ends up with Naruto despite being introduced in chapter 34, so I guess it's not as impossible as I thought. But anyways, Sumi, from what little we've been given in the anime, is a very shy college freshman who seeks to better herself by becoming a rental girlfriend. Though she's had a tough time so far, when she meets Kazuya, she was able to relax and learn a little bit about how to better communicate with people. Her being a rental girlfriend opens her up to being able to work on her bashful personality and become more confident in herself by meeting tons of people that, as Chizuru said, will like her for the way she is. Even though she wasn't able to play too big of a role so far, she played a tremendous role in helping the audience see a better side of Kazuya, someone I should finally talk about. Kazuya, Kazukun, Kazuchin. Where do I even start with this guy? He's a selfish, lying, thoughtless, pitiful, jealous, indecisive loser, but nah, that's pretty much it. It's very obvious from the start what kind of person Kazuya is, with small glimpses of who he could be. Yet, unlike a lot of characters who share the same personality or share the same type of character development as Kazuya, he's not oblivious to it. He knows when he's the cause for other people's problems or when he accidentally drags other people into his. He usually realizes this afterwards, as after all, hindsight is 20/20, but he genuinely does feel bad and tries to find a way to make up for his mistakes. And if he does realize that he's the one being irrational in the moment, he just drops it. When I was listing out some of his flaws, I was debating whether I should put self-pitying on there, as he walks on a fine line between self-pitying and self-hating. In some moments, it feels as if he's just trying to pity himself, but in others, it feels as if he's genuinely sorry other people have to put up with him. I think that's why his character in those moments are so frustrating, as you want to see him improve and become a better person, but for every 3 steps forward he takes 2 steps back. But that still leaves him ahead of where he was previously. For example, look at when he first rented Chizuru versus when she bought him a gift. The first time he rented Chizuru, it felt so real to him, so to see that it was just a service that he paid for, he unjustifiably got angry about it, wanting to confront Chizuru about it and pretty much make the whole second date a miserable time for her. There's a difference between faking emotion out of malice, like what Mami did, and faking emotion out of professionalism, like Chizuru. But Kazuya projected what Mami did onto Chizuru, and it wasn't until she told him off when he realized that he was the one in the wrong and was acting like a dick. Compare this to when she bought him a gift. Kazuya was excited because it felt like a genuine friendly gesture, only to then realize that she also bought gifts for her other clients. He still asked her about it, but he already knew what the answer was, and he wasn't really upset about it. Just from this alone, we see that he's not a better person by the end of the first season, but he's also not static and is slowly improving. It just sucks because obviously we want to see him improve and get better, so you can't help but get frustrated when he relapses onto the Mami train. So that's the point I want to make about the character and all the hate surrounding him. I don't think people dislike him out of actual disdain, but more out of love for the character. It's like that one friend who keeps making the same mistake over and over. You're getting annoyed with them not because you can't stand them, but because you want to see them get better because you care about them. Especially when you know how much better of a person they can be when they do finally get on the right path. Chizuru realizes this too. During the scene when Kazuya gets caught stalking Chizuru all day, she wants to get angry with him. You can even see it building up, but she doesn't because she knows the kind of guy Kazuya is and the kind of guy he could be. So instead, she just deals with it calmly and doesn't get upset with him, but rather she was just a little frustrated that he took a couple steps back from where he was. Whether this says a lot more about Chizuru than Kazuya is one thing, but I think Chizuru sees something in Kazuya that the audience may not have seen yet, and that we don't get to see clearly until Sumi is introduced. Sumi, despite not playing too big of a role in the series so far, acts as a window to help us see a side of Kazuya that we haven't been able to see a lot of. The side that shows the best of what Kazuya could be, a caring person who is there to help his friends, even when it puts him at risk. Someone who will try to put others at ease and take some of the stress off their shoulders. Still a little horny on main, but it not being his main focus. Even when not at his best, Kazuya pulls through in the end and tries to learn from it. His main fault is not being more aware of the world around him. Kibe straight up spells it out. Kazuya will always work hard for one thing in mind and get tunnel vision like Ruka, but also not realize when he might have something even more special than the thing he thought he wanted. All this to finally arrive at the biggest problem the show has. The characters. I know I said that as if it was a negative, but it's one of those things where it's so good, it's bad. I guess to simplify it, it's too good for its own sake. As ridiculous as this might sound, I think Rent-a-Girlfriend probably has the most realistic depictions of relationships in anime. Before calling me a loser, let me explain. Every character has their own set motivation and reason to justify their actions. Sometimes in harem or slice of life shows, things or drama happen just for the sake of plot progression. But other than coincidences like Mami and Chizuru showing up at Kazuya's work, there's not a lot of character choices or actions that feel forced. And depending on your own experiences, it determines who you side or agree with in different situations that happen. I felt this way when I first watched it, but it became very clear to me when I rewatched it with a group of friends. The best example of this was during episode 2. Chizuru and Mami were having a back and forth with each other when they both decided to drag Kazuya in the middle and expected him to pick a side. And this is where the perception of what happens next differs. In the show, he simply turned to Chizuru and said, "That's just how he is." Chizuru then gets up to leave, and Mami orders a virgin drink for the virgin boy. It was actually crazy that the understanding of what just happened was split between the guys and the girls in the group rather than the group as a whole. All the guys took it one way and all the girls took it a different way. During the scene, all the guys thought Kazuya was trying to de-escalate the situation by putting it onto him, making himself to be the butt of the joke and the sole root of the problem, so neither side walks away with any bit of guilt or resentment towards anyone involved. However, the girls thought by him not standing up for himself, Kazuya was taking Mami's side. Kinda like if he did anything but stand up for himself, he was arguing against the point Chizuru was trying to make, which is also how Chizuru took it and why she left after he didn't stand up for himself. I think this situation in particular is so interesting because of how two separate demographics interpreted the same situation differently. You could just argue that us guys were dumb, but because of everyone's differing experiences, it either left them feeling like Chizuru was justified to leave or confused on why she was even upset. And this can be applied to just about any character and situation in the show. The characters are written in such a way that even if you don't agree with them, their actions and thought process are still reasonable. So you're stuck in this loop of wanting to hate a character but also being able to relate or empathize with their actions. You'd want to hate Mami because of how manipulative and selfish she is, but you can also empathize with her struggle of seeing your ex with another person so shortly after your relationship ended. And it's for this reason why I think the show and its characters are so beautifully written. There isn't a typical bad or evil villain in the show, just like there isn't in real life. Only people who make choices we don't agree with. No one is ever too far gone, and everyone can always change for the better. Even if you can't on your own, there's always someone out there willing to let you rent their ear. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, then please leave a like and maybe even subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Also, go check out my Twitter. That's the easiest way to communicate with you guys. But yeah, I really enjoyed the show, and it's kind of funny because the group of friends I was watching with said that they could see exactly what I was going to make the video about, and even freaked out about that cliffhanger ending, so that was a good time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, watch the anime, read the manga. I'll see you in the next one. Ruka Sarashina and Sumi Sakurasawa. Fuck me, mate. Oh my gosh. They're so hard to say, like, back to back. Each knows... During the scene where Kazuya gets caught stalking... What?